Today's guest is the Assistant Director of Abduction Studies at MUFON in Florida, where she's also a field investigator and a STAR team member. She has over 20 years' involvement in the UFO field and regularly holds both public and private gatherings for abduction experiencers. Together with Kathleen Marden, she co-wrote the book The Alien Abduction Files, the most startling cases of human-alien contact ever reported. A massive Koit welcome to Denise Stoner. Hi Denise, and welcome to KoitCast.
Hello. Nice to be
Lovely
invited.
to have you here. Excellent stuff. Brilliant. Always the opener with me. Who are you? Where are you from? Etc. etc.
Well, I'm Denise Stoner, and I have had many experiences with UFOs and craft, and I live just north of Orlando, Florida, in the United States.
Ah, I hear they're going through some weather issues at the moment. A little bird told me. Yeah.
A little bird tornado warnings. Yes.
Never good. So hope you stay safe in that region.
Yes.
Okay. So let's kick off in the paranormal journey, so to speak. What brought you into the paranormal theatre? What was your introduction, your origin story, if you will?
Well, origin story would be from age 2.5 when I saw this little entity, little person who came to my room and asked me if I would go with him. So that just kind of segued into me seeing all kinds of things and then being called to people's homes and asked to just, can you get rid of this? And so.
And have you been able to get rid of this?
We do a lot of study and research, and in some cases, yes.
Excellent.
Yes.
Well, I hope we hear about that later on then. So you're 2.5 and you see an entity. What is it? I mean, first off, I don't even remember yesterday. So how do you remember being 2.5? First off.
I've been asked that, and there was kind of a target memory situation where my mom was in the hospital giving birth to my sister when this happened, and I was at home with my grandparents, which my mom had not left me for 1 second up to then. So when this happened and I knew my mom wasn't there, neither was my dad, and I just had the recall of it when we started to talk about these things happening with others. And I thought, oh boy, that's a full memory. I went to Kathleen Marden, niece of Betty and Barney Hill, who did a lot of hypnosis work on me.
Okay, and so it wasn't a conscious memory that you've had all these years, it's a recalled memory.
It's a conscious memory, but it had to be fed by the target that just, I remembered my mom being gone, and then I thought, uh-oh, what is that? In my own memory process. And it turned out to be this little entity that came and asked me to go with him.
And what did this little guy look like?
Well, he was dressed like a little monk. He had a hood.
Oh, wow.
He had bell-shaped sleeves, and down to the floor. I couldn't see his feet. I could see his eyes looking at me, and he had this funny little, I still don't know if it was an instrument, a tool of some sort. It was long, and at the end was a little light that stayed on it, didn't blink. And he asked me to take his hand, and I did. And he walked me out to the hallway, and he touched the wallpaper with that instrument. Next thing I know, we're walking right through the wall.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I mean, I know at 2.5, that age, that wouldn't seem whoa to you per se, would it? As we look back now,
No.
That's a whoa scenario.
It is, but it wasn't then. It was just, I was a curious child, and I had been, alone up to that point, and I was waiting for my mom to bring home a baby brother. Instead, I got a baby sister. And, so when I told her, oh, I had this little friend come and take me, and my parents both said, oh, she's got an imaginary friend, like a lot of other children.
Mm.
And they just kind of left it at that. until years later when we found out that my mom and dad had been visited too.
Ah, so experiences in the family.
Yep.
Yeah. So this little being, did he look human to you then at that stage?
No. But I thought, this is his costume, and it was kind of cool, but he had these great big eyes. And I also thought that might be a part of the costume.
Hmm.
Um, I wasn't sure. And of course, at that age, what started was me climbing up on a couch, a sofa, looking out the window at this huge orange, kind of orangey yellow object that was shaped like an egg. And I thought, what is that out there? And then I thought, oh, it's Humpty Dumpty. Do you remember that nursery rhyme?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Humpty Dumpty sat. Okay, so then I thought, well, where are his eyes and nose and mouth? Didn't see that. Didn't see his feet. Just saw it. So my grandfather came through, and he said, "What are you doing?" And I pointed and I said, "Look," and he did. And I can remember right now the fear on his face.
So he saw it as well.
Yes, he did. And he said, all right, then we're going to go upstairs and read a story and you'll go to bed, which I never argued about that. So
Hmm.
we went upstairs, got ready. He read me a story. My wallpaper was covered with nursery rhyme characters. So I started looking for Humpty Dumpty, and he wasn't there.
Oh.
So while I was looking, the little entity walked through and into my room.
Mm. And do you remember post the bit where you went through the wall? So when you went through the wall, what happened next? Do you remember that as a 2.5, or do you
Yes.
remember that through recall since?
No, I remember a combination, let's put it
Okay.
that way. Um, that I saw a curved uh, wall. Everything was curved around, and way at the far end were several other children sitting, and another one of these entities standing talking to them. And I was not allowed to go down that far, and they said, not this time. Just just watch a little bit. The kids are enjoying it, and then walked me back through the wall and put me back in my bed.
How very, very random, but also how very, very in tune with what I've heard from other people and have
Mm.
researched. First off, I'll say the egg thing is it's well, not quite common, but it does appear in other things, doesn't it? I think the Lonnie Zamora case, I'm sure that's an egg.
Uh-huh. Yeah, there are many that had
Mm.
that egg-shaped thing, and it had no, do you say, substance to it. I didn't feel like I could go up and knock on it or anything like that. It was just so bright um, that you would question whether or not it was a solid mass.
Mm. And I've obviously the curved nature would be the inside curve of an egg, assuming it's the same shape that you do
Hmm.
physically go into. So
Yep.
that would kind of explain that. Did it have the same thing that other people report, whereas it's a bright white light, but there is no light source per se?
Yes. Yeah. It did
Mm.
not reflect down onto the ground, and it was just barely above the telephone lines, and that was an empty lot next to our home. There was nothing there.
Mm. So inside, when you were seeing this being and with the other children, was it talking verbally, or was it what you would now know as to be telepathic communication?
Telepathic, definitely.
Mm.
Yes. Um, and that same being had been with me all my life. Even showed up at a few places where I was doing paranormal investigations.
Well, we've got to hear about these. So, your first introduction is 2.5. You're essentially, we'll call it abduction, although you might not necessarily call that these days. I mean, do you class yourself as an abductee or do you class yourself as a contactee?
Uh, I would say contactee, experiencer.
Ah, there we go. Because I said this when I was speaking to Preston not long back, and I kept making the mistake. I kept saying abductee, and he go, no, contactee. So
Yes,
yeah,
that's true.
I just want to check because I don't want to offend you by saying the word, but it's just the
Oh,
word that's in everyone's vernacular, isn't it?
right, it's true.
Right. Okay. So post when you were 2.5, what was the next memory or event that you can recall?
Well, he started to come for me couple times a week.
Whoa.
And we would continue to go into this thing, the room, and it was like a polished, I started to notice a polished or brushed metal, not quite silver. I don't know exactly what you would call it, but I was very concentrated on what it was. And there were benches, but they were also molded into the wall. There were no seams and no nails, none of that type of thing.
Hmm.
It was all one part. So they took me there, and then my parents were building their first new home. So we moved, and this took place in Wethersfield, Connecticut. And nobody left their doors locked, cars locked. It was just free of crime. It was a little historic home, still kind of remains that way. So I came to one night in the park by my school in my pajamas. And I looked around. I didn't know how I got there. I started to walk home because I was only a couple of blocks from home. And I noticed that the bottom of my pajamas were damp from being outside in the wet grass at night. And it was, school had started, but I went home, ran upstairs, and went to bed. Nobody noticed the difference.
And did you
I,
go to bed straight away, as in a calm sleep, or were you up all night thinking, what the hell had happened to me?
no, I just went to bed and went to sleep.
Isn't that strange?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
almost like you're programmed to not worry or care.
Yeah, in that instance, I would have to say so. I knew that I had been somewhere. I also spotted my entity on my way home, almost as if he were watching out for me. Um, there was one instance where I was dropped off in the park where this man, and everybody laughs like, "Oh no, you're crazy," but no, I found another person. I called him the oil can man. You know the
Okay.
old oil cans that you push the bottom and it had a spout and it clicked
Oh, yes,
like a
yes, yes. Yeah,
clop clop sound.
yeah.
Okay. So this uh, person had that on the end of one hand and he could extend that arm way out. I was on my way home. He was chasing me and he reached way over and clicked and dropped some sort of liquid on my shoulder. So I was able to, from that time, move home very quickly, again up the stairs and into bed. So did that have something to do with it? I think so. I think that it kind of caused me to go home and go to sleep.
Yeah. Now, that's an interesting one. I've never heard of that before, by the way. So you're very unique
Yeah,
on that
I
story.
try to
What?
find that when I can.
Yeah. So it was like you were walking home and then it came out and then poured something here, almost like, like that smelling salts or whatever. It
Hmm.
gives you that instant physical reaction. You think that's what this sort of stuff almost did in a way.
In a way. So I ran, but the arm continued to lengthen and remain above my shoulder. I got away from him once. He never tried to grab me. He just, I think, wanted to drop that oily substance on me.
How
So he
very,
finally
very
did.
odd.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, here's a question obviously springs up from this, right? So let's just say we go 100% all in. You were taken. Why do they drop you off mile on, just far away from your home and then have you walk back? What's the purpose of that, do you think?
The only explanation I have is it's an enormous park. It was also a place where they played football, so it's huge. With my
Okay.
was a grammar school at the end, easy place to bring a craft down and drop somebody off without being noticed, most likely. I knew some people that lived around the park and they were friends and they said, "Oh yeah, right." You just,
Hmm.
ended up in that park. I said, "I did. It's true." So then I told my mom about what I called the oil can man, and she said, "Are you having nightmares?" And I said, "No, no, he chased me." And she said, "Okay, well, let's just think about that one." And she went about her business and didn't want to discuss it really anymore Um, but my dad and mom were taken, most likely, that we found out later on. Kathleen Marden interviewed them. Well, not my dad, he was gone, but my mom and my sister. And they told their story. So it was a combination of things, I think, trying to keep it quiet uh, from people. Connecticut, though, has had a lot of UFO appearances, abductions, and so forth. Yeah.
Mm. And from your mother's and your sister's accounts, did they think like presumably everyone else thinks that they're alone and they're going mad, so they keep it to themselves, and then once you speak about it, that runs a process in their mind, which is, oh crikey,
Yes,
what
exactly
came of
right.
it from your mother's interactions with Kathleen, essentially?
Well, later on, with Kathleen, in my interview, my mom's interview, and she wrote it down for Kathy, was such that my dad and my mom had gone to bed. They were at one end of the hall, and we were at the other, my sister and my grandparents in a bedroom in the middle. It was a two-story home. And my dad was looking out the window. He had been uh, involved in World War II bomber. So he knew planes. He still researched and so forth. He looked out the window and saw two big lights coming across our property. And then he said to my mom, if that hits us, we're done with. And the next thing he knew, it was morning.
Oh,
Now that's not his reaction. His normal one would be grab everybody and get downstairs quick. Yeah.
mm.
He didn't do that.
So we've got scenarios in your mum's life, your granddad's life. What was your mum's reaction when it was discovered through Kathy that this is 100% true? What did she? Sorry, did she then come forward and speak to you about it openly?
She did. Yes. And I said, so this happened. And do you recall? We could not bring forth any memory besides that. But she was not afraid because she'd already heard my story and anything new that was coming up. And it didn't really bother her. One instance where my husband and I were taken out of a valley, Glacier Valley in Colorado, before dark, and my mom was waiting for us at the other end. My mom and dad, we had a camping situation there on a ranch,
Okay.
and we missed 3 hours. And we had set the odometer. We saw a light coming over the car. I knew that we were lifted up and taken out into the high desert, and then my memories ceased. I tried speaking to my husband, and he was kind of frozen to the wheel of the car. The next thing we know, we were across that glacier valley and sitting on the hilltop or the mountainside that led 9 miles up the road to our camp. And my
Mm.
parents and friends were about to go in their cars to look. There were only two roads on to get there. And so they were going to go and check if there were any car wrecks. Where was I? There were no cell phones. This was 1982. So they were going to go looking when we pulled into the ranch. And my dad said, what happened? Because we were never late for anything. And it was a new car, it was running beautifully. And we said, we saw something. And the rest of it is, I don't know. And so my dad just was, oh, okay, because by then he was working for aerospace and had some pretty good stories about working for that situation and company he worked for. So it didn't bother him. He knew things had to be kept quiet. My mom, she wanted to know. She was, I have to know right now. And we couldn't tell her. So
Mm.
she was concerned. Yeah.
See, part of that is I can understand the concern because you obviously anyone's missing for X amount of time, you're going to be like, what the hell's going on?
Yes.
Tell me, because I'd be the same. If I was in that situation, I wouldn't give up with the questions. No, what did you see? What did you see? All that stuff. You know, I bother you all night, and that would be
Oh
annoying.
yeah.
But you can understand it, can't you?
Yes, I can. And that's the way my mom was. She didn't even like a gift that was wrapped for a week. She, well, I mean, she was that interested and curious.
Yeah, I had my nan was like that. If you gave her a Christmas present,
Uh-huh.
she couldn't keep it on the lap for 5 minutes while everyone else had their present handed out. It had to be opened
No.
immediately.
Yep. Yep. If you touch it, it's getting opened.
See,
That
what
was
I'm
my
trying to
mom.
get to with all these thoughts of your family and especially your mum is because in the back of their head they're thinking, well, I've also had these experience. You'd want
Hmm.
to you'd want to talk to your family, wouldn't you? And always talk about it. But
Yeah.
also, part of you is holding back because you're thinking, "Am I weird?" Do you know what I mean?
Yes, that was part of it, and part of it was I think I was told not to say anything.
By
And
whom?
um I think the ETs or whoever took me, I think yes, them. As don't speak of this. They didn't threaten. They just said don't. And also worked in a situation where I had a clearance. So if somebody said, "Here, take this and do so and so with it," I never spoke of it.
Hmm.
I just did what I was supposed to do.
Yeah, and I think that was part of the ethos further back in time, wasn't it? Is that
Yes.
loose lips sink ships and all that stuff. So people were not secretive, but they held on to the
No.
things they knew.
Yeah.
So that does
True.
make sense. You've obviously pondered the question across the time that this has happened to you. Why they ask you to keep quiet? What have you reconciled there?
Ooh. Well, I think it helps to just this is just me, my
Hmm.
opinion. It helps to break the line of truth because if many of the people don't tell, it's going to break the communication and something's going to be missing. A lot of people are going to say, "Oh, that one's
Mm.
that type of thing." Yeah, it helps prevent what they are trying to protect.
Can you elaborate further on that? Because I'm not quite 100% sure on what you mean.
Okay, well, whatever the I just call them ETs.
Hmm.
Mine was a gray mostly. Um, whatever their project was, and I do think a lot of it was various projects they were working on, just like we do scientifically. And they didn't want to give up the information until they had a full package and also to complete what they might be doing to us physically.
What so you mean they don't want to mess up the experiment? You mean in
Right,
a way?
right,
Okay, that no, I can understand that because if you then lead something, you then get a different outcome potentially
right. Yeah.
on whatever agenda that is. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's several agendas.
Mm.
Um, I think it depends where you are and what's happening to you and information that you might be given or shown.
Okay, and you've intrigued me there. So let's pull on one of those threads if you don't mind. Let's go with agenda one. You said there's more in your mind, so let's just hit with one of them.
Yeah.
What's the first?
Well, one big one, because I can't get this one out of my mind and how it works. I was asked if I wanted, on my way out of a craft, if I wanted to tour that craft. And I said yes. I was curious enough. You're no longer afraid once you're on the craft. At least many are not. So we walked through, and he said, "I'm going to show you something." And this was telepathic. Um, Step inside that room. So as soon as I hit the doorway, it was fairly dark, kind of a very dull lighting situation. And I felt like I was inside a heart. It was that boom, boom type feeling, but it was big. It was very big. Matter of fact, Kathy has this on tape. She saw what happened to me um, and pulled me out of the hypnosis that we were taking a closer look at the situation. So he said, "Move ahead." And I looked down, and there were pathways built into the floor. Underneath those pathways was all liquid of some kind, just swirling and moving. I get this boom, boom. I'm looking around, and then I look across the room, and there is a combination. It's the only way I can put it, a combination of biological, organic, mechanical thing, person. And it was female. And I had horrible feeling of sympathy, empathy for this individual who I felt suddenly was trapped. And then she spoke and said, "So you think I'm stuck here?" And I said, "I do." And she said, "Oh no, I signed up for this and I can leave whenever I want to. I can take a break. This is my choice. This is something I want to do. Just like all the others, we have communication with each other and with the main ship. And if we're called back, we can leave and all meet at the same time." That's the only time she spoke.
Okay, so what did you take this female to be then in that room doing with those
She,
thoughts? What was she, a pilot?
yes, she was running that particular ship. It was very small, kind of teardrop shaped somehow, I would say. And she was running that situation. That was her craft.
Weird. So, do you think part of the agenda then is uh, identifying humans, shall we call it that, to then have the ability to pilot crafts? Because I've heard that before from somebody else.
Oh, um, yeah, well, she said she signed up for that. So we know that she wanted to pilot that type of craft. I don't know that there was a whole individual there, or was that the whole individual? Because if you add the mechanical portion of it and organic, I could see some sort of, I'm going to call it foliage, no other word for it, coming out of portions of this. I could see her very well from the head down to just below the shoulders.
Okay, so all you saw was head to shoulders, and then it was what,
Yeah.
a mechanical being,
Mm.
stuff.
Stuff. There was
I
some
know that's a
life
highly technical
foliage.
word, but
That is highly technical. But it
that's
had,
science. That is.
yeah, it is. It's science at its best, right? But yes, she had some foliage. She also had some, looked like tubing. You know, the kind of larger tubes that have wiring running through them. They're like an
Mhm.
accordion. She had some of that. And it ran down to the floor and into the fluid.
Whoa, this is reminding me of the Borg Queen. Now, obviously, somebody will have gone through this with you before. You've heard of the Borg Queen from Star Trek?
I I think so, but I couldn't tell you anything about it.
Okay, I'll
I
tell you
have
what. Have a
not.
look it up. From the film First Contact. It's worth looking
Okay.
at because it's exactly that image. It's like head, shoulders,
Oh,
and then mechanical stuff with tubes.
oh,
It's worth looking at.
okay. Yeah,
Only for
I'm
the
gonna
imagery
write that
alone, but
down.
I just wondered.
Yeah, I'm gonna write that down right now. Okay, got it. Um, yeah, I felt extreme sympathy for her. Still, it didn't, that sensation, that feeling or emotion did not go away. And so then I asked my guide to please, let's leave. I need to kind of think this over. But I don't want to look at her anymore.
Mm.
So we left. And I had a sensation of being not punched, but bumped with something. And so when we went and put me under hypnosis, uh, Kathleen brought me out because she actually saw what looked like if you took bean bags and hit muscles,
Oh yeah,
it
and you
looked like
got the yeah.
it looked like that to her.
Interesting.
So yeah, yeah. So I said I was not afraid. She thought I was and wanted to get rid of the fear. anxiety, anything like that. And I said, I want to do this again and film it. So we did.
And you saw the same
And
event.
same event, same event, yes.
See, now, if I'd have seen that imagery, it's highly disconcerting, and I can understand why you would have thought, empathy for that person, because that's a frightening image, I would say.
Yeah, it was. And why did that room? I think the whole content of that room was causing that sense of a heartbeat, that boom, boom. That's when I would get that feeling of being hit or struck by something. But it wasn't meant, it was a part of the whole.
Yeah, that could just be like the reverberation sound.
Mm.
Sometimes you feel stuff through your body. That could be a part of that. Who
Yeah,
knows?
yeah.
Okay, so what was your next experience post that one? And that's a good one, by the way. Not that your other ones are poor, but that one's a whoa.
Well, let's see. There's another one that I think brought more sympathy, more empathy, more concern for human beings. Um, I was on a huge, huge craft. I was taken out of my bed here at home. My husband was taken out of the room and put in where our computer is and put to sleep. So that when he came through, he said, "Were you taken?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Good, because we're in Florida and your cheeks are rosy red like they've been in an icy area, and your feet are cold. The bottom of my pajama bottoms were soaking wet." So I was a little bit, you know, well, concerned about what I'd seen and a little concerned about this being something that was happening more than just this one time. So we're in the craft. And I look outside, there was a window where there was a panel and there were many ETs of different types working, looking. And I could see big granite cliffs. And we were told to get in line. There were two pathways, one to the left and one to the right. I observed another human trying to run away. They didn't want to be a part of what was going on. I think the ETs were very concerned about this project. They were not happy with it and believed they shouldn't be doing it. Was I told by one of them? I don't know. So I got in line and they said, "Just follow." Well, this huge craft had a balcony that moved completely out from the back portion and from the other side also. So I looked behind me and I could see that the surface was rough. It was not smooth. It was kind of like almost like a shark skin.
Mm-hmm.
If you, I was a diver, so I relate to all of those types of things. And I thought, oh yeah, what is going on? And we were all handed, just as we were getting in line, little black boxes with no seams. And they were very shiny. And when I touched that box, I knew I was holding something very precious that I did not deserve to even touch it. And I didn't know what was in it. So we walked down, we were put on the open balcony. I was concerned about falling. And the person out there, the ET, said, "Step forward." I was terrified, but I did. I stepped forward and something held me back from falling over.
Well,
And
so
they
they
said,
wanted you to essentially walk the plank.
"No." I thought they did, but they did not. I looked and there were six others in my section of the balcony. One individual that I recognized from here in Florida, but when I questioned him about very carefully the clothing he was wearing, I said, "I've seen those before, I think, but it's not your normal type of dress." He said, you would only have seen this if you were in my yard working out with me," and I had never been. But I could describe what he had on to a T. There was another lady, boy, she was dressed in a gown, fancy jewelry. She'd been at a party apparently when they took her, and others. I didn't know anyone else. So we were all fearful. We were all emotional. Um, and one of the ETs came by and I said, "What is in this box? I need to know." And he said, "Look down." So I did, and there were many, many big, tall, kind of like Colorado, or it could have been Switzerland, or it could have been any one of those wintry looking places. And I saw a little A-frame type house that was all windows, lots of glass. I could see it from the level we were at, and the ship tipped toward the granite cliff, and that's where the balcony was. And he said, "I'm going to tell you, but you're going to drop that. You'll all receive a signal, and we're going to drop the boxes." And he said, "What they contain is the soul of a hybrid going to a new set of parents." And I felt absolutely like I don't deserve to do this. It's not up to me to do it. And I think it's your job. And now you're not wanting to do it. So this funny signal went off that I had no control over it. I dropped the box and I looked, and it got about halfway down level of the trees, and it all just broke apart. It was just kind of a little light, a little flash, and it was gone. And the front window of the home was right there.
So this scenario here, a little black box, in theory, had a hybrid soul in it. So we'll try and discuss that in a sec. And the plan was to get human contactees to deliver those souls.
Mm-hmm.
What have you thought about that since you've discovered this or remembered it or fleshed it all together? I mean, there's a lot going on there. So
Yeah.
why, first off, let's ask the question, why does it need to be humans dropping these souls? Right, why can't they do it themselves?
That was a big question. It still is a big question. I think perhaps it was very simple and they didn't want to do it. They felt maybe similar to my emotions and didn't want to, and felt like it wasn't up to them to do something like that. But they were scientists and they had been assigned a project and they were doing it.
Okay, I can see that. I can understand that. So the second question would be hybrid souls. I mean, we almost can't answer this, can we? Let's be fair. But
Yeah.
it's like half and half of a human and an alien, a soul of both of those sort of somehow squished together. Is that what they're getting at?
Yeah, a combination of um, human and what their makeup is. Um, I don't know. Is that what was happening? I have
I
no
don't
proof.
know.
I have no proof.
No,
And
but I just wondered what you've reconciled in your head since.
Mm.
Where could you think about it? Where can you put it?
I can't. I am
Mm.
still, that's one of the things that stands out in my mind and in my feelings, emotions, etc. And I can't settle it anywhere. Yeah.
It's that one sounds almost as disconcerting as the woman in the heart room.
Hmm.
In that it sounds morally dodgy, doesn't it? Hence why they're
Yes.
almost refusing it. You go and do it, and then that puts the
Yeah.
onus on you, and then the worry on you. So that tells you two things in a way. One, that you're cared about less than them from their perspective,
Hmm.
in a way. Um, and it also says they're doing something, or that sounds like they're doing something dodgy.
Hmm. It does.
Mm.
But they were arguing before we were told to get in line, before we were handed the boxes. I could see a group of them, both grays and insect type, arguing over the situation. I think they were going to let us go, not force that issue, not cause us to have to go through that. But they had turmoil on the craft because the group on the other area, going to the other side of the balcony, were some of them were running away. They were really resisting. Um, a person that I probably know grabbed the hand of a girl that was kind of in hysterics. She was squatted down, knees up, hands folded together, and just terrified. So this person took her and ran down the hallway and into a side room. And I thought, that's not going to do any good.
Hmm.
They, there's nowhere to run. We're on this craft. We're in a place that appears to be, you know, of the world, but we can't just step off and go down the steps and go home.
No, you can't run away from them because if they can get you in your car, in your bed,
Mhm.
it
Yeah,
doesn't matter, does it? Let's be fair.
that doesn't matter.
Here's another thing, right? You've said it yourself that there was no fear during certain encounters. The story of the people running away and the lady crouched down, rocking back and forth and stuff, that suggests there clearly is fear at that point. So,
Yeah,
how do you reconcile that?
that's the only time I ever saw anything like that, other than one older gentleman who has passed on, who had been taken, and his wife was very extremely religious. So they were taken, and he would come to one of my meetings, more than one. He kept coming, and she kept trying to convince him not to show up anymore because we were all evil. But he wanted to save his wife, and they had some sort of cattle prod type thing, so that if they tried to run, they would smack you with this cattle prod and cause a burn. So first his wife tried to run, and they got her in the ankles. So she just gave up and put her up on the bed. She stayed there. He ran. He took the opportunity thinking he's going to save her and himself. So here they come with the prod, and they're reaching and they burn him. And there's a doorway. And he was from, I believe it was Idaho. He jumped out of that doorway and landed in what was only could only be called desert. He was in the desert. It was dry. It wasn't like any place that he had ever lived. And he started to run. And he was going to try to find someone because the ship was down by the ground. He wanted his wife back. And as he ran, there were some sand dunes. He ran behind the sand dunes and he was being chased. And military, our military, stepped out from behind the dunes and said to him, "It's okay, we're going to take you." And they looked up at the ET as if they knew him and said, "It's all right, we got him." And they said, apparently agreed, and went back to the ship, back to the craft. And these military men took him and put him in some sort of underground facility, did an exam. He had burn marks, and they said, "We're going to get you home." When they said that, he woke up in his bed at home in the morning.
That
And
opens a shed load of questions as well, doesn't it?
it does. And his wife came through to wake him up. He stepped out on the floor and he couldn't stand. His ankles were broken, one worse than the other. Well, his wife managed to wheel him on a cart to the doorway to the car, go to the doctor, and went to the doctor. And the doctor said, "You must have fallen from a great distance for this to happen, and you're going to need surgery." So, where did you fall from? And he thought, "Oh no, no, I'm not talking about this." Um, and he said, "Well, yeah, I had some kind of fall, but I'm a little foggy right now because of the pain. He got away with that." And they did the surgery on his ankles, got them healed, and he was okay. But he had never forgotten. He was terrified.
Oh, well, I would be. Well, first off, if he's ran to some dunes after falling and breaking his legs, good on you.
Hmm.
Yeah, I know what a
Yeah.
broken leg's like. It ain't fun. So, but that's one hell of a story. Now, what have you thought about that with those military? Because that suggests that they're watching
Uh-huh.
or in cahoots with. But also the fact that they're saying, no, we'll take you away and get you medical treatment suggests
Yeah.
they're not in cahoots with. So, where have you put this one?
I keep questioning, was that a rescue by the military or were they in cahoots? But the entity, if you look at it, the ET agreed with the military, like, oh, okay, that's all right, let's work with this time,
Hmm.
and allowed the military. So I don't know, and they want us to be confused, I think, so that we don't come up with the right answer. Um, there are so many things. Another situation was an older gentleman, retired from an area. I'm trying to think of the state, because it's been a while, but there was I think it was the Schaefer Pen Company where they made pens with their
Mm-hmm.
thousands of employees changing, the night workers, daytime. I think there was even a middle group that came to work, but they had been hearing the sound of a heartbeat. So this is
Mm.
familiar. Something was booming. So this young guy, he was only 17, didn't know what was going on and wasn't worried about it. So he took his rifle. It was his parents owned a farm. They went out, or he did, with his dog. All of a sudden, the dog stopped and wouldn't cross a little bridge they had and got scared, tail between the legs, and took off. So the young guy looked around, didn't see anything scary, so he crossed the bridge. And when he did, he realized he was in a situation where everything was dead silent. The leaves falling from the trees were not landing at his feet. There was silence as far as birds and insects. There was no breeze, no wind, nothing, and silence when he listened. So he started to look around, and I have a picture somewhere, but he drew the picture of these little guys that had great big round eyes came down on a platform out of nowhere. This was a nothing. And he thought to himself, is there a doorway? How do I get out of here? And so when these little guys came down on the platform, he drew his rifle and he heard in his head, don't try that. So he put it down right away. And then he looked on the floor and there was this machine of some kind. That's where the sound of the heartbeat was coming from. So he ran and he had no trouble getting through. He just left the area and went home and reported. He said, Dad, come and see right now. And of course, Dad's a farmer. He's not going to play games, um, not even with his son right now. So he said, no, I'm not doing that. I'm very busy. So he didn't. The people that were going on duty for the night crew at that Schaefer pen factory were shifting shifts. So this one woman stopped with the crowd. They were late for work, thousands of them looking, and they saw these, what we call the tic tac shaped crafts
Yeah.
buzzing all through the area. So this one woman wrote an article, and I was told it's called The Democrat. Boy, my memory's working a little bit tonight. It's called The Democrat.
That
I
makes one
wrote
of
to
us then.
them. That's a good thing. Oh, goodness. But I wrote to them and I tried to call them and I asked if they had something in the archives that would allow me to have, a copy of that article
Mhm.
that the woman wrote. They wouldn't respond.
There's a lot of that going around, isn't there? Of like people
Yeah,
holding on to their secrets for whatever reason.
yeah,
Um, and to advance anything, to get to the truth, everyone needs to be open and honest, and that includes
yeah,
organizations everywhere. So I don't
yeah,
understand that scenario, but hey ho. Now, you
yeah.
mentioned earlier about you'd seen different types as well, and you mentioned insectoid. Is that praying mantis type, or is that an ant type? What had you seen?
Praying mantis type and very large. And I called in the doctor. He was very busy with what he did or what he was assigned to do. And didn't pay a lot of attention to me, just went about what he was supposed to be doing. Um, Only once did he show any kind of emotion, and that was questioning the way I behaved when he stuck me with this needle type thing, and I swung at him. No, no, you're not.
Yeah,
That's
good
not
on you.
happening. Yeah, so he put his face right up close to mine and turned it. So if you picture the mantis
Yeah, I
face,
can see them doing it. Yeah.
right? And his eyes were so that the lids would blink this way,
Hmm.
not that way. And I was fascinated with that. But I saw him looking like, what is all this nonsense in her behavior? I'm just doing what I'm doing, and that's that. And she has to be still about it.
Yeah, two thoughts that come to my head. I know it's always two things, so I apologize for that front because we go off on so many tangents. But the doctor, why is it that in most of the contactee cases you hear about when there is a praying mantis involved that people think they are a doctor? I've heard that many times. What do you think? I
Yeah,
mean, there can't be all praying mantises everywhere, are always doctors.
no. And this one was very, very tall. His joints were odd. Of course, the praying mantis there, I was standing up just like them. I could see the mandible um, with all the works there looking at me. But something told me, I don't know if it was another ET, told me he was highly intelligent. And I felt it. I could actually feel that um, intelligence, the smartness, the knowledge that that thing contained.
Okay, that's the first part. Second part of the question is emotion. Now, obviously, we're emotional beings, and you all
Yeah.
clearly like, get the hell off me. I don't want to be stuck by that. And then they're questioning
Yeah,
why you being emotional. Is that the same for
right.
the greys as it is the praying mantis? Do you think they are devoid of all emotions?
No,
Oh,
and there are
interesting.
two types, and people have wanted to discuss that situation. But the small ones, I saw them all lined up along the hallway, shoulder to back, not moving. The only time one or more moved is when they were directed to. So I think they were robots. And I also think that they had some sort of, I got to finish this job too type thing. I'm just going to do it. And the taller ones, like the one I had. And that ET, he had some emotions. Um, I could pick him out if you lined him up, in one of those police lineups. I
Yeah.
could pick him out easily if you put all others like him. I knew who he was. Um,
What, from
I
facial
had
expressions or just feeling?
both. I could see the subtle things in his face that told me, yeah, he's not mine, but he was my guide, my escort, on and off the craft. And while he waited while I was being worked on, if you will. And so he was kind because he could stop pain and fear. And the first few times I was taken and headed for a craft, I was afraid till I got there. But then he would touch my forehead and the fear would go away immediately.
Let me ask you a
Um,
quick question about this. Is
yeah.
it kindness, or do you think that was a tool of the trade to shut you up?
Mm. Took me a lot of years on that one,
Oh, good.
but a lot of years like thinking that's what he's supposed to do, and he's doing it just like the other guy, the mantis. And then all of a sudden, well, not all of a sudden, I was only 20 years old, and I had a near-death experience. I was given only 20% chance to live, and I thought, well, you know what? I don't want the 20%. I want to leave. The minute I thought that, I was in the hospital. I was out of my body. And the place that I saw was so amazing. And I also saw the face of that ET showing me that they're there too, the older ones. And I think the grays mostly, this is where they go. Um, and I was looking for myself, which is really odd to say, but I was looking, I said, where am I? I don't see me. I was trying to look at my hands and feet and I couldn't locate them. And someone said, someone I don't know, um, just take a look around. And I noticed I didn't have to turn. I could see 360 without moving. And then they said, now ask that you see your hands and your feet and separate out from us. And it did. A little light form. I could see me. Um, Not like I am now, but as kind of a little lit up soul, I guess you would say. And then I blended. He said, you won't want to stay that way long. And I wanted to blend back in, and I did.
It's reminding me of Star Trek again. I know that's there's
Oh,
a character in Star Trek, right, called Odo in Deep Space
oh,
Nine. And I'm sorry to hit you with loads of Star Trek stuff, but it is so apt. He's a being, right, that is made of sort of like liquid, and he returns to something called the Great Link. And so he pours into like a drop and then enters the ocean. So it's merging back in with the whole. But if he wants to feed himself, he would come out and form a human. Yeah, that reminds me exactly of that scenario
oh,
you just mentioned.
oh my goodness.
Yes. So there
Hmm.
is this thought then that we are all drops in the ocean. Is that what you think ultimately it is?
That's what I'm thinking. I saw off in the distance a very, amethyst colored, was kind of a light, but not any particular shape to it. And I said, what is that? Can I go there? No. That's for much later. It's going to take some time. They said that I would have to come back um, and finish up what I was supposed to do. So that's what happened with that. Just back I came. Yeah,
Yes, it's a common trope, isn't it, with NDEs? I had this as a question to ask you later on, by the way, so I'm glad you brought it up now because we've discussed it now. That the whole I don't want to go back, but then you end up coming back. That
yeah,
said, if you had chosen to stay, we wouldn't be having this conversation now for you to tell me anyway, would you? So
yeah.
there is that.
So true.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so what have you seen any different type of aliens other than small greys, big greys, and mantis beings?
One other, and I didn't like it, and that was the reptilian.
I knew you were going to say that. Why does everyone
You
say that
do.
about the reptilians?
I
Why?
don't
Why have they
know.
got such a bad rep?
Um, I think that in a way they're cruel. Um, this one showed up in my bedroom, and it just kind of came through a door, and I said to myself, "Oh no, no, this isn't going to happen." And he moved his finger, like "Come here, come hither," and I thought, that's one I could resist. I had a flashlight that was an LED, and I shined it right in his eyes, and he disappeared so quickly through that door to leave. They don't like LED lights. I have advised others of that, and they've used them, and they work. So he came back one more time, and I told myself, don't look at his eyes. Do not. If you do, you're done. So he left, and he never came back.
Well, here's a question regarding to the reptilians, then, right? If they take people as well, and they are as evil as people allude to, how come you come back safe? Wouldn't you be eaten or something? Or I'm just saying that as a silly thing, but you know what I mean, though.
I do. I guess. You keep thinking, I've been in this situation for over 40 years. So I separate them out. I take a look at it. Are all of these people negative and positive, good and bad, um, indifferent and caring? Are working on something for themselves and perhaps for us included. And they've got to continue to send us back as they work on this project, or it would be finished before completed.
Okay, I'm going to come back to this because I think this leads into the bigger picture, so we'll hit that later on. Let's take a sideways adjunct here, because you've written a book with Kathleen. It was the Alien Abduction Files, the most startling cases of human-alien contact ever reported. What's the story of that book, if you were to give a synopsis?
Oh, well, the first 1/3 of the book is I wrote it myself. It's my story. There are some pictures in there showing, my various ages as this thing progressed. And the next one, which is always curious, her name is Jenny Henderson, and I was not allowed to meet her because Kathy was our investigator, and something that we both said made her think we might have been on the same craft together.
Ooh.
And how this gal showed up and wanted to be involved in what we were doing. So I noticed that Kathleen was asking some odd questions, like, when you were on the craft such and such a time, is this what you were wearing, or describe what you were wearing? I didn't realize she was trying to compare with Jenny's. So she did tell me there was someone else, and I said, well, tell me about it. Can I meet her? First thing, can I meet her? No, until we're done. When the book is published.
Until the project is finished. This is sounding very similar, isn't it?
There you go.
Yeah.
That is so true. So, yes, that's what happened. So we think we were pretty much on the same craft, maybe a couple of times. So, and she's not from here. She doesn't live near me or anything. So,
is she American, though?
Yes. Yes, she is.
Here's an interesting. I really need to interject with this question because it's very important. I've just literally thought of it. When you're on the crafts, is it only people that are local to your area, as in within the states or whatever, or would you say have an Indian person, a Mexican person, somebody from Bangladesh? Are they all on the same craft?
Yeah.
Does it work like that?
That one I noticed, where we had the black boxes. Yes. And there were various lines and various times. So maybe, perhaps that craft went to their area and they dropped the box in that section of where they're from. But yeah, they're not all from here.
Interesting. Right, sorry to take us off on that tangent. You carry on. So we were back to Jenny. So she's the second third of the book.
Right. And then the last third are several people that we've both worked with, and some of their stories very briefly because there's just not enough room. There's so many people. And then we did a study, the Stoner Marden study on this whole situation. We wanted people to answer, to find out, what their circumstances were and so forth. So some of our results are the last portion of the book.
Good, and that's exactly, you've just set me up a right tee there. I love that. So well played, you. I'll drop you that $5 later on. Now, the book states it finally reveals, amongst other things, the vulnerabilities and benefits of living life as an abduction experiencer. Can you talk a little bit about that? The benefits and the vulnerabilities. That's an interesting one.
Big one. I know when I was in that hospital and I was dying, I was saved and healed by an ET.
Go for it. Let's hear that story.
So I had a police artist draw the nurse for me. So I hadn't had my surgery yet. I was going to, and I was lying in bed. I was in pain and getting ready to go to the ICU, intensive care unit. And this nurse came through, and I had actually expelled a very weird green and violent purple liquid out of, you name it, That's where it came out of.
You've been
Every
on the Mountain Dew
orifice.
again, have you?
Yeah, whoa. Yeah. So, this nurse came in and she said, "Let's change your sheets." Well, I thought, what is she doing? I was raised up off that bed. Nobody touching me or holding me. I was floating. She changed the sheets, took them, and then put me back down. And I looked at her and she walked up to me and she had the big almond-shaped eyes of a gray. She had on the nurse's uniform of, well, this was 1969, but that uniform came from the 1940s, right in that era. And so she was talking to me and she said, "You're going to be all right. Know that." And she walked through the door. Then the doctor came in and said, "I'm here to collect some of that liquid. We need to get it to the lab and see what's going on because we don't know what's wrong." So I said, "The nurse took it." And she said she was going to get it down to the lab. He sent somebody looking, and it was a small hospital. It was a private hospital. They looked everywhere. No nurse and no sheets.
And no one
All
had
they,
seen this nurse prior to her walking in.
nope. And there was just a tiny little spot left on my gown that he put away. But they couldn't get very much of anything from that. So then I ended up in surgery, and they took all but 3 feet of 22 feet of small intestine, some of my stomach, muscles, and so forth, and gave me 20% chance to live. Well, here I am. That was
And
1969.
that's where the NDE came in.
Yeah.
Okay, you know how many questions I'm going to ask now, don't you? It's going to be two, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
So,
gonna be. Yeah.
the alien, right? Walking in with a
Yeah.
uniform on. The
Yeah.
very the very fact that it's walking in with a uniform on says it must be visible to other people. Okay.
Mhm.
So it must have walked through public locations in order to get to the room where you were in.
Mhm.
So that would suggest that when you saw it, it had the big eyes and obviously the grey sort of face. It must be projecting a human style face to other people when they see it. Is that what you
It
think?
would almost. That's another I don't know. How did it get from, well, where did it begin? I don't know. Right
Hmm.
outside the door,
Possibly.
um, and came in and then took everything that had some sort of evidence in there and then left. Um, I was in severe pain at the time, and when they were wheeling me down to the operating room for emergency surgery and exploratory surgery, I said, "I don't want to do this. I don't want to be here." The minute I thought that, I was up on the ceiling, floating around. That's when I had my near-death experience.
Hmm.
And
Do you think
they
it is
sent
a
me
near
back.
death experience, or do you think it's an outer body experience? Or do you think
Near
they're the
death.
same?
Well, part of the same, I think. Yeah,
Hmm.
definitely. When you see that tunnel that people talk about, speak of, it gives you a sense of going home. It's like, oh, I can get through there and everything will be okay. I'm not going to worry about it. And then you can't get through and you're told you're going back. You can see, I was in that one area where I could see 360. I saw the ET, but in front of me was the end of the tunnel and they wouldn't let me through. So I think it's all a part of the whole.
When you got back, did you dislike it? As in, why did I choose that, or why was I forced to come back?
Oh boy. People wanted to know where's Denise?
Ah,
I had
I knew what this is going
changed.
to lead to. Yeah, fair play. Go on, go on.
My handwriting doesn't even look the same. And it took me a little while to remember, but I know what I did. I know that I had a past life. I know what it was. I know who I was. And I changed places with my old personality because I liked it better.
Now,
It,
this one is a hard one for people to grasp their heads around. I heard you on
yep.
another podcast when we were researching questions for this interview, and I love this one. So you're saying you had your experience, your near-death experience. You go to wherever this place is. At that point, you're forced to come back, so to speak. But you say, "Well, sod it, I ain't going back as Denise. I'm going to go back as Denise -1."
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
is that's what
Uh,
happened?
Absolutely. I
And
have
do
no
you feel
doubt.
different? I know that sounds weird, but
Oh, yeah. I was like a little mousy character that let people walk all over me, and I had no enthusiasm about being in the public arena at all. And then I was talking about school I was going to. It was like, let me just sit in the back row with something over my head and they won't call on me. And now, mm-mm. And again, like I said, my handwriting changed drastically. The way I treat uh, people and respect them and they respect me. It's a whole different thing. And my parents and friends that came to see me in the hospital, I was in there for 2 months. And so they would come and they'd say to my husband, "Where is Denise? What have you done with her?" And he would just shook his head. And then I realized that my middle name now is the same as her first name back then. And how did I learn the rest of that story? Is I showed up in a home with a girlfriend to do a tour, and they were having an old-fashioned box lunch type situation, and we wanted to be involved in that. This was in Denver, Colorado. So there we are having our little box lunch, and a woman walks in from the back, being guided because she was very elderly, uh, with two men, and she looked at me like she knew me, and maybe something told her she should have. And she walked directly up to me and said, "Where do I know you from?" Well, at that time, I hadn't figured it all out. And I said, "But I don't know, but this is very pleasant. Would you sign a book for me?" So I ran outside, looked for something, found a pamphlet, ran in, she signed it. I still have it. And I said, "Where did you get your dress?" Because that dress was mine. I knew it. And she said, "In a trunk in the attic." "Why do you ask?" And I just said, I don't know, there's just something familiar about it. Like I might have seen it before. Perhaps you were wearing it. I didn't want to get her upset. So then, we spoke a little more and she left. And a man came down the stairs and said, "We don't allow people upstairs, but you look like you have an interest in history. Would you like to look?" And I said I would. So my girlfriend and I went right upstairs and right to the room that had been mine. And on my way there, I turned around and looked at this gentleman and I said, "Are the pictures of the children still on the wall on the left-hand side?" And he said, "You've been in there before." And I said, "I have." But I didn't tell him how long ago. So we went in and looked. It all was familiar. I saw some more of my clothes standing there. And then when I discovered who this person was, I started to have dreams, and then memories while waking type things, that told me what I had been through. And so that's how I found out that that was me back then. It was my last lifetime,
so
and I
your last
needed
lifetime when you had this dress, what does that mean? That this woman you were speaking to was your daughter or a family
no
member?
a great niece.
Okay.
I figured out she was a great niece, still alive. Yeah.
Now, you said something earlier that you had a near death experience, but technically then you haven't, have you? You've had a real death experience because your Denise died and
Yep.
whoever this other person has come back and is now faux
Mar-
Denise.
Margaret.
Margaret, okay, so that's a hard one to comprehend. But you do hear stories, don't you, of people who are in comas and things that come back
Yeah.
and have different personalities. Do you think the same things happen in there?
Yes, it's all a combination of the same thing, no matter how you go about it or you're approved for it or you agree to it. I think
Hmm.
it's all a part of the whole, and it's the circumstances, depending on where you are, how that's going to be accomplished, or how do you want it accomplished and be given permission by something out there we can't see.
Hmm. Right.
Yeah.
Now, the reason I've been doing these KoitCast interviews, right, is because I've been a fan of all this stuff for God knows how many years, as probably you have. Now,
Yeah.
I do this as a search for answers. Now, I've spoken to past life regression therapists. I've spoken to Jim Matlock a few weeks ago, all about reincarnation, and all this stuff is playing into the same thing.
Yeah.
Now, a documentary I saw either today or yesterday, I can't remember because my memory's like that. Was on soul recycling. Now, you will have heard of that, the Recycling Soul Project,
Yeah.
probably linked to the moon. I don't know whether that's a wild out concept to hear, but it's linked to aliens. So your piece of the puzzle seems to be fitting that scenario, which is to say, my thoughts are the big picture. Aliens are somehow involved with souls and the reincarnation somehow into human existence.
Yeah.
Your thoughts?
Advance to keep that project going. I don't think this has ended, and I think there's so much more to go. Um, it's a very difficult thing to speak of. Um, it's very difficult to say I know the answers because I don't, but I cannot tell you this isn't true. It didn't happen to me because it did, and I would swear to it until the day I die.
Sure,
Um,
sure.
it's just fact. It's just fact. Um, I was Margaret, and I have taken part of that personality back with me. I'm looking for a newspaper article that I know is out there and I can't find it, where I was standing in a black dress in front of was either the mayor's house, uh, perhaps in Denver, um, and they were giving me some sort of plaque. And then there was a wrought iron fence, and behind that were women all dressed in black holding up signs. I was very big in the women's advocate.
Hmm.
And I know that that picture was taken back in that time, and I know I should be able to find it. And I can't so far. I'm not good at, seeking out that type of thing, but I keep poking around and looking.
Intuition or your feeling, does it tell you that you will find it?
Well, it tells me that I'll find it. Um, it was easy to find my grave. I've seen that.
Whoa.
And that was like being hit with something, knowing there I lie.
I love, well, the knowing was an interesting word before you then added the extra few bits on. But, and I also wanted to get back to the familiarity when you saw that lady. Familiarity, knowing when you saw the grave, these things do hit you and you can't explain them.
No, mm-mm, you can't. You just know. I mean, that's just like walking into your home today, saying, I'm going home. You walk in that front door and you know that's yours.
Yeah.
There's no question. How could you think or believe otherwise?
Hmm.
It's the
I've
same
I've
thing.
I've told this story I think on another Koitcast, but it's about when I met my girlfriend. Right, she sent we dated online, as with a
Hmm.
lot of people 10, 15 odd years ago, whatever.
Sure.
But when she sent me the picture, I knew her without ever
Hmm.
seeing her before in my life. And that sounds weird, but I had that familiarity and knowing,
Hmm.
and I just wondered if other people get that, and I know they do because I've spoken to other people who've said it. Is that what yours were when you saw that lady and when you saw the grave?
Yeah, I knew her. And as far as the grave, I know her. And that's why I was a little bit shocked to see that and know that's where I had been and moved on toward this lifetime. And, I question all the time, have I done enough? What am I supposed to do? How can I help the next person? And how do I find them in order to help them? Of course, they come to me now. They start calling and asking questions and asking for help, and I support them.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Let's get back to the vulnerabilities and benefits of living as an abduction experiencer. So, can you tell me some vulnerabilities that you face? What are the issues you face?
The issues there would be someone wanting to just cut you to ribbons, to tear you apart, to try and destroy what you have or you feel you have built up to help others. They want to take that and just destroy it so that you are not looked at as a real thing. Um, so that's very hard when you're very vulnerable when it comes to that type of thing. That's the biggest for me. After all these years, if people say, "Well, you're a little bit loony," I just kind of go, "Yeah, maybe." Whatever you think, have
Exactly. It
at
is
it.
whatever, isn't it? Whatever. So
Yeah,
be it.
but don't destroy what can be used to help others.
Hmm.
Sitting on the same platform, waiting to lift off to see what's happened to them. Is it true? Is it not? What's going on? And I can support that.
Okay. So there's your big
Yeah,
vulnerability, and I get that one.
yeah.
Getting the evil eye from people. I understand it. And so, what are the benefits of living as an abduction experiencer? What do you get out of this?
What do I get out of it? Ooh, I would say helping others, and knowing that they're getting something from my support, that they can hear me say to them, "It's all right. It's happened to others." And your story, your experience is all a part of this whole. You can take that and run with it, or you can choose what it is you feel comfortable with. And I'm not here to talk to you once and then leave you. I am here for as long as.
Do you
So
think that helping people is a human trait to this experiencer phenomenon, or do you think it's a guided or controlled thing from the aliens to say, right, you are now going off to help trauma with people who've gone through the alien experience? Where does it come from?
I think that we sign up for something that I would consider the whole picture. But I don't know that they're along for the ride when it comes to supporting. And that may be a part of their project. They're watching to see how we develop as we move along, yeah, in this project. We signed up for it, we're working it, we feel like we belong there. And is it going to end? Are we going to decide enough already and give up? Or are we the type of individuals who will continue going until there's no more steps to take?
Hey, here's some direct at your questions that you either know or you won't. But do we know the names of the races, their names for themselves?
Oh boy. I never asked. I guess I felt that I wouldn't get anything that I would understand until working with Kathleen and a couple of others on, um, well, I guess you would call it the council. Well, the person that we work with does speaks to the Council of Eight. That's what he calls them. And so I asked when we were meditating together, one of them, "Do you have a name?" And they said, "If you must have a name, it is this." And it was so loud and such a high pitched screech, I couldn't wait for it to stop. And he said, "See, did you get a name out of that? But this is who I am." And oh my goodness. Yeah,
But
I
so
don't
that would
think,
be the individual's name, though, presumably. This high pitched screech, like
yeah,
ah,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
like Dave in our
way up
language.
there.
But do we know not necessarily their particular names, individuals, but the race of themselves? Like we call ourselves humans. What do they call themselves? They don't call themselves the Greys. Do we know?
No, they don't. But they basically name their planet. My experience only, I think, where they'll say we're from and name the planet. So they've named their home.
And what is
Um,
it?
I am always told, look up through Orion's belt and continue to watch. And I've had sightings there, just going at night and watching in the wintertime. Um, so I think there are many. I don't have the name of that particular planet because every time I think I'm going to remember it, I don't. It's like they've taken it for the time being. Yeah,
They are very, very naughty because we need to know that.
they're
I
very,
need to know
very
that.
naughty.
Very naughty.
Very.
So let's think big picture. Now, I gave my thoughts on what I said was the big picture earlier. Somehow recycling of souls. I'm not 100% sold on that, but it's where I'm leaning towards. Where do you put this big picture agenda down to? How do you think they play into death, recycling, reincarnation, all this sort of stuff? What is the big picture?
I think that they're far more advanced than we are. They're signing up for some of these projects and might get stuck just like we do, thinking, ooh, this is not a good thing. Um, I can tell you that I received a phone call from a little gal, this is years ago, when she was just out of her junior year in high school. And she just announced, I'm a hybrid. I need to talk to you. Through the years, I have come to believe that she is. She's now 28, and she has never dropped communication with me. And she told me, she said, I can only tell you once where I'm from, and she did. I don't remember, and I can't find a piece of paper, but she's given me a lot of evidence that she is not from here and would want to, she says, go home. It made me start to study some of the causes and effects of all these types of things. And leaving a craft, I was also told, um, if we cause a pregnancy in a human and it doesn't work out well, then you get to take them and raise them yourself. So that's caused an awful lot of thought in me because I've
Oh,
had a
God,
couple
yeah.
of those. Yep. Who
So
could
hold on,
these
can I
people
just
be?
clarify this? You're saying if a pregnancy doesn't work out, is that what you said?
Yep.
That they have the license to take it?
No, oh yes, and if there's something wrong with that pregnancy and they survive, you get to keep and raise.
When you say you get to keep it, we keep it.
We
So you're saying everyone on this planet born now, other than hybrids, are defects essentially. Is that what?
No, oh boy, you just said something I never even thought of. But no, I don't think so. I think we have to take a look at the various types of births and how would they resemble one of these ETs in a lot of different ways. Are they super smart, but are they autistic?
Oh, I see.
And if they're autistic, what level on the spectrum do they fall? Super intelligence? Smarter, way smarter than they should be? I mean, I'm just giving you an example. I'm
Hmm.
not saying that's the case, but you start to go through some of these situations and try to figure out, is that what's going on with them?
Hmm. And what did you think when I said I sparked something in you? Then what was that? What was that thought?
Um,
I used the
boy,
wrong word probably.
yeah, no, it was throwing, um, and not an observation, but looking for the big picture,
Hmm.
the big, and what do I know? Um, and I don't have an answer for that. I'm still seeking, I'm still looking, and I'm going to keep on doing it.
No, that's fair enough.
Yeah.
I like to try and form big pictures. They might all be completely crap, but that's how I'm going to go with it initially, is what I said earlier.
Yeah.
Now, my I wrote a question here. Now I think it's already been answered by the fact that we've discussed some of this. But my initial question was: we have it continue. Sorry, why have it continue all these years? Surely a study would be over by now. As in, why you constantly abduct people, constantly take people. But if it is the big picture that I mentioned about, involving souls and stuff, then you can understand why you would continuously monitor it.
Yeah.
But hey,
and you go from caveman through biblical times and on up to today. Look how we've developed and changed. I mean, living in caves, and now we're sending people into space in rockets that we've developed. We don't know who gave us some of the information, but to get there, have some thoughts on that. But we're still growing. And are they helping themselves also? Is this a part of the whole? Are they working with DNA from both sides to improve? Perhaps take back emotions that they lost and gave up on for themselves to try and bring some of that back.
do you feel that's the case?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Do you ever get the impression that they feel sad that they've lost like humor and things?
Yeah. Yeah, I do. And I think they feel it somehow too. And to know that that's gone, but then to watch us playing some dangerous games with ourselves and other countries and coming so close so many times to a world war, they want to take that out of us.
Interesting. So they kind of want their emotions back, but they know they need to take it out of us because it leads to damage.
Mm-hmm.
Catch 22.
Catch 22.
Yeah. It's a sideways one again. Has anyone from your investigations and stuff that you've done since your experiences and that has anyone ever reported seeing animals on board at the same time as they were?
I do not believe so. I'm looking back to people that have seen fetuses in jars of liquid and so forth. They do use that to project animals so that we tend to want to follow them. Owls, deer, foxes will show up, and you think there's something not quite right with that animal. But we tend to go outside to follow them. They're sitting on a tree outside our window. So we do that. And how are they able to project those animals so perfectly in order to get us to go to that? Do they have them? Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, this screen memory thing and projection of mind. I spoke to Mike Cleland about it all about the owls, and that was he was talking about deer and all sorts of stuff as well. Very, very, very interesting. So go and watch that one if you haven't seen that episode. Mike Cleland, episode 9, I believe it is. Very good. Here's a strange one, and it's a question that's been plaguing me for the past 3 or 4 days, so I had to write it down earlier today. And you probably might not even know the answer, but what do aliens think about sport, music, TV, and film, i.e., the creative culture of Earth? Do they ever say anything about what we do?
They kind of, I guess, according to what I've seen only, they want to bypass a conversation in that telepathically. It's like, put that aside, put it away. We're not interested. You're going to go much further than that. There's so much more to see and do, basically. And so, what are you doing with that stuff?
Okay, so basically it's trivial, don't care about it.
Yeah.
Cool.
No.
I just see, in my mind a few days back, I sat there thinking, I wonder if aliens have ever watched TV programs, to watch it on a scientific level. Oh, I wonder what's going on here, and then commented on it to you or whomever to say, oh, just saw an episode of Lost, I love that bit in that. That must happen though. Because if these aliens are real, and they are, because you've had the experiences I have.
Oh yeah.
They must have seen this stuff, and therefore they must have an opinion on it. I'd love to hear that.
Me too. I would like a statement.
If you ever get that information, would you kindly email me in the future?
I
It's a
will
question I
certainly
want.
do so.
Okay,
Yeah.
now I go on to ask a couple of wider picture topics before we enter the Koit zone, which is
Hmm.
just a laugh between me and you. It's not serious
All
questions,
right.
but
Sure.
um, it is a going further question. So I'll read it verbatim because it's quite a long question. So please bear with. If we
Mhm.
signed a soul contract or something similar, and we agreed to the UFO abduction experience, how does it reconcile? And if the aliens are part of the soul afterlife, why would they need to abduct us? Now I need to reconcile that question in my head now.
Wow. Okay. Again, I'm going to say they're a part of the whole. I think that should we all have the opportunity to meet them on the other side, if you will, um, they're all a part of who we, well, the makeup of, if you want to call it, God, a spirit that's way beyond what we know and understand. We're all aiming, I think, to go there. That's what I think the message I got was to go to this thing, area, being, and never have to come back again. And I
Right,
think it's
so
also the goal or aim of the ETs.
to get us all to this big
Yeah.
one consciousness or whatever we'll call it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that if that's the case, that's lending credence to this being a training place to learn, to get better,
Hmm.
to fit in or something. I don't know, but that's where that's going.
Yeah.
Uh, Here's a classic one because you mentioned earlier about going through walls and stuff. Has anyone reported seeing, when being transported to the ship or a ship through walls or in a beam of light or whatever, aliens also being lifted? I.e., do people only go up on their own and then they're in a craft and then the aliens are there, or do they see them coming up the beam with them?
In my case, I saw the alien or the ET going up the beam with me. The
Ah, cool.
difference there is you reach a certain point in that beam, and as far as a human goes, I felt like I was coming apart. I couldn't find me. I wasn't there. And that's how I entered the craft. Did that same thing happen to the ET? I don't know.
Interesting.
Mhm.
Does that suggest then that you were then removed from your body or like deconstructed and put back together? I.e., if you were pulled out of your body, like an outer body experience, your body's gone somewhere.
I would say deconstructed within that
Okay.
beam of light. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
like a transporter beam. It's Star Trek again. This is exactly where we're going. Sorry, I'm a Star Trek nerd. Um, I think we've covered this. My question was ghost death. How does this
Mhm.
play into the UFO theory? But I think we've covered that with the other thing. Hypnotherapy for regressions. From others I've spoken to, there's a leaning scientifically towards the notion that gathering memories via regression isn't as clean and as accurate as we'd like to think, as the brain can lead. The brain can be led or implanted with ideas that colour those recovered memories. Where do you sit on regression in respect to memories and their accuracy?
Okay. I have used a thing called forensic regressive hypnosis, which means you give absolutely no suggestions to the person that you are doing the hypnosis on.
Mm-hmm.
Kathleen took that same course with me, and we are very strict and orderly in saying, I am not going to suggest anything to you. You're going to tell me. However, we're still going to find someone who wants to please the hypnotist so they confabulate. And it depends again on the level depth of hypnosis that they can go to. Um, you get information that you just know. Okay, this is good. Nope, that one's I don't know where they're coming from, but it's not the truth. It just they're having a good time writing a book.
And have you had one of those yourself?
Yes. Hmm. Yeah.
What are you
It
thinking
is.
when they're saying this stuff? Because are they consciously spouting crap at you, or is it
Yes.
unconsciously coming out as a weird story? Do you think?
I both. I would say both, and they have a purpose. It's like, what's their agenda? And I usually say, tell me, please, what you need from me. And right then they're going to click and say, well, I thought you'd write a book or publish it if I write it. And then
Uh,
I'll also do a documentary on my story.
and give
Comes
me
out.
10 grand, yeah.
Ah, give me this. Yes.
Yeah. No, I can understand that. That makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so that's good, yeah, because I was thinking when I was told that by somebody about the, I think it might have been, what's his name, Lloyd Auerbach, about regressions, the
Mhm.
colouring of them, but there's been so many regressions on alien abductees, and you don't want to get into the whole everything's made up, everything's coloured, because that doesn't
Yeah.
make sense, does it? There's too
No.
much validation in all the stuff.
Yeah. That's
Mm.
true. Yeah. You just have to be able to at least halfway sort out what you're looking at, what's being given back to you when you ask those questions, and you have to be pretty clever about it.
Mm.
So yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you one question that I ask every single person I interview. Now,
Okay.
you kind of have to not mention your near-death experience and not mention anything in respect to aliens, because you'll find out why when I ask this question. What strange things have happened to you? So, is there anything else in your life that has come across weird or strange? Like, have you seen a ghost? Has there been a weirdo person in your life? Go for it.
That was very, very close to my grandfather, and I felt that he's been looking out for me, caring for me ever since he passed away. So I thought I would try. At one point, I was leaving in the car, and I said, Grandfather, would you mind riding along with me today? And I got on the road and I looked in the mirror and he was sitting in the back seat.
Oh,
And I have no doubt. So now periodically I say to him, could you leave me a coin? Could you drop a penny and he does. It's within about 6 to 8 hours I'll find one.
do you ever say to him, "Can you leave me a winning lottery ticket, please"?
Oh,
Try that one.
I wish. Yeah, well, there's an idea.
When you see him in the back of the car or whatever, is it like an actual 3D person, as if you were seeing a real live person?
No, full manifestation, complete.
So yeah,
Yeah,
you're seeing it like it was a real person there and then in the car.
yeah,
And how
in
long
the
does it
car
last,
right.
or does he disappear in front of your eyes?
He faded away, but he was there, I would say 2 to 3 minutes.
And you were talking, or was it telepathy again?
No, again, just I knew I was getting information from him. He was born in Scotland,
Oh,
and
lovely.
so wasn't my grandmother. Yeah, so I would know that accent.
Oh, I
You
see.
know, the
Yeah, I get. Yeah,
various
yeah.
dialects. Um,
Oh,
I know
hi.
his. I knew my grandmother. Yeah, yeah,
There's loads of them up in Scotland.
yeah.
Quality. Denise, we are now entering the Koit zone. Koit zone! Okay, so in the Koit zone, I will ask you random questions. Some will be serious, some will be silly, but it's all meant in good jest. Just follow along if you can. So, is there a food that smells nice to you but tastes gross?
Um, yes, and that is anything to do with the makeup of a beer. The hops. Ugh. Yeah, no
Yeah,
good.
but I know you've gone the other way. It's got to smell nice to you because I hate the smell
Oh,
of
it's
hops.
got to smell nice to me.
It's got to
Oh, the
smell
smell
nice,
of
but it
hops.
tastes gross. Yeah,
But
so
it
you're
tastes
attracted to it, but then
gross.
when you taste it, you think, oh God, no.
Lima beans.
I don't know that one. What are that?
Lima beans.
Lima
They
beans.
look like peas, but they're kind of kidney shaped. And they're very small. And oh, no, thank you. But they smell real good while they're cooking.
I'm going to look that
Yeah.
one up. I don't think I've ever tasted that one.
Look at that.
I will do. Question two: have you ever broken a bone? And yeah, you didn't tell me this
Yes,
earlier, so you have. Okay.
yes. Toes,
Head, shoulders, knees, and toes, or just the toes?
just the toes.
And what happened there?
Just stumbling and catching the toe in something and hearing it snap.
Oh
And
God.
Yeah. Hurrying along in the dark, usually.
Mm, not a
Yeah.
nice feeling. Not a nice feeling at all.
Oh no.
Okay, here's a cool one. What's the most expensive thing you've ever lost?
Yee. Um, a camera. It was pretty expensive. It did all the things I wanted it to do, and it just disappeared.
Oh no.
Um, yep. I had
Was
it on a
it
ghost hunt.
was it an old film one, was it?
Yeah, yeah, it was because it's been several years, but it did all kinds of things and just went away.
Do you think there's somebody out there now with your camera thinking, "Oh, I'll get those developed one day," and they look at it, oh, better not look at that. Some of the photos you left on there. Oh,
I
Denise.
wouldn't be surprised. Yep, yep.
What's your favorite movie?
Oh my goodness. I like some of the older movies. Um, boy, all of a sudden I've drawn a blank on the names of them. One's a hmm, it's between a Broadway play and a movie, Cats.
Oh, I see. I've never seen the
The
Broadway movie. Play, I mean.
yeah, it's called Cats, and it's because of what it's about. And
You don't mean the new remake version of Cats, do you? Because that was god awful.
no, I haven't seen that one.
Well,
No,
don't even bother.
don't
It's
go.
woeful.
Oh gosh. Okay, I will not. But yeah, overall, I have to say that's it. And I think they made a movie of it. Eee, see, I'm not coming up with the name. It's a musical too,
Hmm.
but it's very, very. Oh, Phantom of the Opera.
Phantom of the Opera. Yes, yes, I know the one you mean.
Yep,
Oh, fair play.
yep.
Fair play. Do you have a favorite word or phrase that you're guilty of overusing?
Hmm. I'm very aware of it, and so I try not to do that.
Oh, okay.
But I, um, I did not use it at all tonight. I use the word paraphrase, and I don't know why, but I use it a lot, so I've told myself, stop it. Yeah.
I know what you mean.
Eliminate that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. When I've watched some of these interviews I've done back, I've said so many things over and over again. I think, oh God, yeah, stop doing that in the future. So,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Best place you've ever been?
Oh, I love Scotland. I went to Scotland. My relatives lived in St. Andrews,
Oh, yeah.
and worked for the university. They were librarians. They wrote books, textbooks, and that little town is. I could have just stayed there.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Do you think you'll go back and visit again?
Oh, I think so. Yeah.
Good on you. I've been to Scotland, I think, a couple of times. It's, and I ain't too far away from it, but it
No,
is a
not
nice
too
place.
far. It
Um,
is.
have you ever been in trouble with the law?
No,
Oh, come
no.
on, you can tell us.
I wish I could. No, I was
You're
one
not
of
DB
those.
Cooper, are you?
Oh, it would have to be underwater. Under that.
Here's a good one.
But no.
What annoys the hell out of you?
Someone that overtalks. You're trying to say something, get out what you have to say, and they just bam in there with something else and distract. They have something they want to say or show, and it's going to get done no matter what. Um, and that is rude. It's like, I'm going to get up. It's like, but I don't.
I
Yeah,
hopefully I have not done that one tonight.
no, you're good.
Good, thank you. That's one I have to try to work on myself, so I know that one. What's your most prized possession?
Hmm. My most prized possession, you. I would have to say that it's a ring that my mother-in-law gave me before she died, within days. She had saved it. She spent a long time hiding it because her other son wanted it and would have stolen it. So she was hiding it in candlesticks and telling me it's under the candle and putting it various places. So when I went to see her, she only had a few days left, and she gave me that ring. She saved it for years and years. So it would be that.
Yeah, I kind of thought you would say ring. I just I had a
Oh
feeling it
my
would be ring.
goodness.
But
Uh,
without sounding misogynistic, I didn't know whether that would be a more female thing to latch on to. Do you know what I mean? Like a piece of jewelry or a ring for
mhm.
sentimental reasons. Um, have you ever fallen down a flight of stairs?
Yes.
See, that's the random
Oh,
question, but I like the answer. Go on.
yes.
What happened?
Um, I was at the top of the stairs. I think I was probably about 11 or 12 years old. And I put my foot out, missed the step underneath. It was in our home in Connecticut. And I slammed all the way down, and it caused one of those, it takes your breath away. So I was sitting at the base of the stairs. My mom was watching and just saying, just give it a second. And I was going like that.
Oh
Nothing
yeah.
was going in. Panic. Oh my goodness. And then it came back. I took a big deep breath.
Wow. I thought you were going to say, and also obviously at the end, you also had a broken toe, obviously.
Oh, very close to it.
Yeah, I know the feeling though, because I was in a tree once in our back garden. I fell out and landed like horizontally, and that you just
Oh,
it's so
yeah.
panicky that moment. I hate
It's
that.
horrible. And I
Mm,
climb trees too. I used to climb them all the time, big ones all the way up. And yeah, it's a wonder I didn't break my neck.
mm. Yeah, we health and safety. We didn't have that back then. We don't care
No, we
about
did. No.
that. If you had the ability to go to a specific place in history for an hour, where would you go and what would you observe?
Hmm. I would like to go, oh, back to the Victorian era. I would like to study those who became, well, the Scottish called them, that person is fey, meaning that they were psychic and they also usually worked with herbs. How did that come into play, as far as, helping people in the villages, mixing up those concoctions and giving them, and they survived whatever was going on with them, that type of thing, a medicinal look at things.
Excellent. I would never have thought of that one. Well played. I like that. Um, okay, so that is the end of the Koit Zone. Thanks for visiting with me. We have two
Uh-huh.
final questions. Always
Uh-huh.
two. First one. What else do you like to do in your downtime? Any activities or guilty pleasures for you?
Sometimes I read a trashy novel just to get away from what I'm studying. And another thing that's new called diamond painting. And it's a piece of canvas with a picture on it, and you put these little minute shiny diamonds. Takes your mind off, and it's just a repetitive type of thing. I can't dive anymore, so that'll do it.
I have to ask about this because when you said diver earlier, it crossed my mind. Um, what sort of diver were you? Commercial diver?
No, but I was a dive instructor, taught people how to dive for your basic recreational diving, but myself, no, I did deep diving, wreck diving, and then I went into the caves, underwater caves
Oh,
here.
whoa.
I had to see what was around the next corner.
That scares the living hell out of me,
So,
that does.
yeah, most people it does.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
potholing is bad enough, but doing that underwater, that's even worse.
Yeah,
Whoa. Yeah.
beautiful,
Well,
beautiful.
you are brave then. Okay, and so the last question of the night, so thank you. But here it is. What are you currently working on?
Oh, I am doing research on individuals who have been abducted, have been taken, and they have developed various illnesses such as immune deficiency problems. Is that where their diabetes came from? Is that where this came from? That, the next thing. And I'm going to be putting out a survey for people to fill out so that I can start that study and research.
So that's going back to the whole, is this experience a benefit or a negative sort of thing? Is that where
Hmm.
you're aiming?
Yeah, yeah. take a look at it. And also the illnesses. Is that where this came from? I mean, Travis Walton had radiation burns. People that I've worked with have, and I tell them, don't go under that craft. Unless you are taken and guided, do not go under the craft to see what's there. You're going to get burned.
And there's been lots of reports of that. That'd be great. So, hey, I look forward to seeing what you come up with there. That's going to be an interesting read, no doubt. Denise, thanks ever so much for coming on KoitCast tonight. It's been a pleasure to have you here. Thanks ever so much for coming on.
Oh, thank you for inviting me. I enjoyed every minute.
Excellent stuff. And thanks to all of you for watching. I will see you on the next episode. Goodbye. To watch other KoitCast episodes, please click the image top left. To subscribe to my channel, please click the image top right. Please like and share to help KoitCast grow, and most importantly of all, please click the notification bell so you never miss an upload.